The winter air was biting as Olivia Harper stepped out of the rundown laundromat in the heart of downtown Los Angeles. At 29, she felt like her life was unraveling faster than she could stitch it back together. Clutching a laundry basket filled with thrift store clothes and hand-me-downs, Olivia glanced at her reflection in the dirty window. The woman staring back was a shadow of her former self, tired eyes, wind-chapped cheeks, and a spirit battered by circumstances. It hadn't always been this way. Just a year ago, Olivia had been an aspiring chef, brimming with ambition and hope. But a string of bad luck, losing her job at a trendy restaurant, a car accident that left her with mounting hospital bills, and her father's unexpected passing, had brought her to her knees. Now, she worked long hours at a diner while juggling caregiving for her ailing younger brother, Liam. As Olivia trudged down the street, her sneakers crunching against the frosted pavement, she caught sight of a help-wanted sign taped to a post outside a gated property. It was handwritten, simple, and unassuming, "Housekeeper needed, inquire within." Her first instinct was to keep walking. She already had 2 jobs and barely enough time to breathe. But something about the sign made her pause. The property it advertised was a stunning villa, its Spanish-style architecture stark against the gray sky. Behind the ornate wrought iron gates, a neatly manicured garden and a cobblestone driveway hinted at the affluence of its owner. "Just ask," Olivia whispered to herself. Her fingers tightened around the cold metal gate as she pressed the intercom button. "Yes." A male voice crackled through the speaker. "I'm here about the housekeeping job," Olivia replied, her voice steady despite her nerves. There was a brief pause before the gates hummed and swung open. She stepped through, her breath hitching as she took in the grandeur of the estate. The villa's warm ochre walls were adorned with climbing ivy, and the air smelled faintly of jasmine. It felt like stepping into another world, a world far removed from the dingy apartment she shared with Liam. The front door opened before she could knock. A man in his 50s, wearing a crisp suit and a skeptical expression, greeted her. "You're here for the position?" "Yes," Olivia said. "If it's still available." "It is." He introduced himself as Mr. Nolan, the estate manager. "But I must warn you, the position requires discretion and exceptional work ethic. This isn't an ordinary household." "I understand," Olivia said, though she had no idea what he meant by that. "Follow me," Mr. Nolan instructed, leading her inside. The villa's interior was breathtaking, polished marble floors, high ceilings with wooden beams, and walls adorned with modern art. Olivia did her best to keep her awe in check as they entered a cozy sitting room. "You'll meet the owner shortly," Mr. Nolan said. "He insists on interviewing all potential hires himself." Before Olivia could ask any questions, the sound of approaching footsteps filled the room. She turned, her heart skipping a beat as Keanu Reeves walked in. He was dressed casually in a dark sweater and jeans, but his presence was magnetic. His kind eyes met hers, and he offered a small smile. "Hi," he said, his voice as warm as the room. "You're here for the housekeeping job?" Olivia nodded, her words momentarily stuck in her throat. "Yes, I am." Keanu gestured for her to sit, and they settled into a comfortable conversation. He asked her about her experience, her interests, and why she was interested in the position. Olivia found herself speaking candidly, telling him about her background in culinary arts and her current struggles. "You're a chef?" Keanu asked, intrigued. "I was," Olivia admitted. "But life has a way of redirecting you." Keanu nodded thoughtfully. "Well, I admire your determination. Sometimes, life's detours lead us to unexpected opportunities." The interview wrapped up quickly, and to her surprise, Keanu offered her the job on the spot. "You can start tomorrow," he said, his smile encouraging. "Mr. Nolan will show you around and explain everything." As Olivia left the villa, her heart was lighter than it had been in months. Maybe, just maybe, this was the detour she needed. The next morning, Olivia arrived at the villa with a mix of nervousness and excitement. The grandeur of the estate felt no less overwhelming than it had the day before. She was greeted by Mr. Nolan, who handed her a neatly pressed uniform, a black dress with white cuffs and a matching apron. Though the outfit was far from fashionable, it represented a steady income and a chance at stability. "Follow me," Mr. Nolan instructed briskly. "I'll show you the ropes." The villa was even more impressive than she'd initially realized. Each room was a masterpiece of design and comfort, blending modern sophistication with classic charm. As Mr. Nolan led her through the grand hallways, he outlined her responsibilities, keeping the common areas spotless, preparing the guest rooms, and occasionally assisting in the kitchen. Olivia perked up at the mention of the kitchen. Though she wasn't hired as a cook, the idea of stepping into a professional-grade space rekindled a small spark of her former passion. The tour concluded at the heart of the villa, the open-concept living room, where Keanu was lounging on a leather armchair, reading a script. He looked up as they entered, setting the pages aside with an easy smile. "Good morning, Olivia," he greeted her. "How are you settling in?" "Good morning, Mr. Reeves," she replied, trying to sound professional despite her nerves. "It's a beautiful home." "Please, call me Keanu," he said, his tone casual. "Mr. Nolan's the formal one around here." The comment earned a subtle eye roll from the estate manager, and Olivia suppressed a grin. Keanu had a way of putting people at ease, and his kindness was disarming. Over the next few days, Olivia settled into her new role. The work was physically demanding, but she found comfort in the routine. She scrubbed floors until they gleamed, fluffed pillows with precision, and polished every surface until it shone. Her efforts didn't go unnoticed. Keanu often paused to thank her or chat briefly, his down-to-earth demeanor a constant surprise. One evening, as Olivia was finishing her tasks, Keanu appeared in the kitchen, holding a basket of fresh vegetables. "Do you know how to cook?" he asked, setting the basket on the marble countertop. "I do," Olivia said, her interest piqued. "Great," he said, smiling. "Would you mind helping me make dinner? I've been craving lasagna, but my cooking skills are questionable." Olivia hesitated, glancing at the clock. She had planned to leave early to check on Liam, but the genuine excitement in Keanu's eyes made her reconsider. "I'd be happy to help," she said. As they worked side by side, Keanu proved to be an eager but clumsy sous chef. He chopped vegetables with a determination that resulted in uneven pieces and accidentally spilled half the cheese on the floor. Olivia couldn't help but laugh, the sound echoing warmly in the kitchen. "You're surprisingly bad at this," she teased. "I never claimed to be good," he shot back, grinning. "That's why I have you." For the first time in what felt like forever, Olivia felt genuinely happy. The weight of her struggles momentarily lifted as she found herself enjoying the simple act of cooking again. When the lasagna was finally in the oven, Keanu leaned against the counter, his expression thoughtful. "You're really talented," he said. "Have you ever thought about going back to culinary school?" The question caught Olivia off guard. "I've thought about it," she admitted. "But it's not realistic right now. My brother is my priority." Keanu nodded, his gaze kind. "Sometimes, it's okay to think about yourself too. Just something to keep in mind." Their conversation was interrupted by the timer going off, signaling the lasagna was ready. They shared the meal at the kitchen island, the rich aroma of melted cheese and fresh herbs filling the air. Keanu's enthusiastic compliments on her cooking made Olivia blush, but they also reignited a flicker of pride in her abilities. As she left the villa that night, her thoughts swirled. Keanu's words had struck a chord, planting a seed of possibility she hadn't allowed herself to entertain in a long time. Could she really find a way to pursue her dreams again? For now, she didn't have the answer, but she felt something she hadn't in a long time: hope. The following weeks at the villa brought both challenges and small victories for Olivia. As she grew more comfortable in her role, she found herself becoming a part of the household's rhythm. Keanu was often away on shoots or attending meetings, but when he was home, his interactions with the staff were always genuine and thoughtful. Olivia quickly earned the respect of her peers, partly due to her meticulous attention to detail and partly because of her warm demeanor. She even formed an unlikely friendship with Mr. Nolan, whose stern exterior masked a dry sense of humor. However, life outside the villa remained as challenging as ever. One morning, as Olivia arrived at work, Keanu was in the garden, tending to a modest patch of vegetables. He waved her over, a smudge of dirt on his cheek making him look more approachable than ever. "Good morning, Olivia," he said. "Do you garden?" "Not much," she admitted, eyeing the neat rows of plants. "But I'm guessing this is more than just a hobby for you." Keanu chuckled. "It's therapeutic. Something about watching things grow, it's grounding. Want to give it a try?" For the next hour, Olivia helped Keanu pull weeds and plant herbs. As they worked side by side, they talked about everything from favorite recipes to childhood memories. Olivia found herself opening up about Liam's illness, her struggle to balance work and caregiving, and the constant worry about making ends meet. Keanu listened intently, his brow furrowing as she described her challenges. "You've been carrying a lot on your shoulders," he said softly. "It's admirable, but it sounds exhausting." "It is," Olivia admitted. "But what choice do I have? Liam's all I have left." Keanu didn't respond immediately. Instead, he pulled a sprig of rosemary from the soil and held it up, the fragrance filling the air. "Sometimes, it's okay to lean on others," he said. "Life isn't meant to be a solo act." The conversation lingered in Olivia's mind for the rest of the day. Keanu's words felt less like advice and more like an invitation, to trust, to hope, to believe that she didn't have to face her struggles alone. That evening, a sudden crisis tested that very idea. As Olivia was finishing her shift, her phone buzzed with an urgent message from her neighbor: "Liam's having a bad episode. You need to come home now." Panic set in as Olivia quickly explained the situation to Mr. Nolan and rushed out. The drive home felt agonizingly slow, her mind racing with worry. When she arrived, she found Liam pale and shivering, clutching his stomach in pain. "We need to get you to the hospital," she said, her voice trembling. But as she helped Liam to the car, reality hit her hard: she didn't have the money for another ER visit. Her credit cards were maxed out, and the last bill was still unpaid. The next morning, Olivia returned to work, her face drawn with worry and exhaustion. She hadn't slept after spending the night tending to Liam, who refused to let her take him to the hospital. The weight of her situation felt unbearable. Keanu noticed immediately. "Olivia, are you okay?" he asked, his tone filled with concern. For a moment, she considered brushing it off. But the sincerity in his eyes made her pause. "It's Liam," she admitted. "His condition is getting worse, and I don't know how I'm going to keep up." Keanu's expression darkened with empathy. "Is there anything I can do to help?" "You've already done so much," she said, her voice breaking. "Just giving me this job, it's more than I could have hoped for." Keanu shook his head. "Sometimes, a little extra help can go a long way. Let me think on this, okay?" Olivia nodded, unsure of what he meant but grateful for his kindness. Later that day, Keanu called Olivia into his study. The room was cozy, with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a grand oak desk. He gestured for her to sit and handed her a mug of tea. "I've been thinking about what you told me," he began. "And I'd like to help." "Keanu, you've already," Olivia started, but he held up a hand to stop her. "Hear me out," he said. "I've been fortunate in my life, and I believe in paying it forward. I'd like to cover Liam's medical expenses." Olivia stared at him, stunned. "You can't be serious." "I am," he said firmly. "I know what it's like to see someone you love suffer. No one should have to choose between financial ruin and proper care. Tears welled up in Olivia's eyes. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. "You don't have to," Keanu said with a smile. "Just promise me you'll keep going, keep fighting for your dreams. And maybe, one day, you'll be in a position to help someone else." Overwhelmed with gratitude, Olivia nodded. For the first time in months, the crushing weight on her chest began to lift. She left the study feeling a glimmer of hope she hadn't dared to feel in a long time. As she walked back to her quarters, Olivia reflected on how much her life had changed in such a short time. The kindness of one man, someone who could have easily ignored her struggles, had given her a lifeline. Little did she know, the biggest challenges, and the most profound transformations, were still to come. Over the next few weeks, Olivia's life began to shift in ways she never thought possible. True to his word, Keanu quietly arranged for Liam's medical expenses to be covered. Doctors were finally able to stabilize Liam's condition, which eased Olivia's constant worry and allowed her to focus more on her work at the villa. For the first time in months, Olivia felt as if she could breathe again. One afternoon, Keanu found Olivia cleaning the grand dining room. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, casting a warm glow over the polished mahogany table. She was dusting the intricate carvings on the chairs when Keanu walked in, holding a worn notebook. "Do you have a moment?" he asked. "Of course," Olivia replied, setting her cloth aside. He handed her the notebook, which was filled with handwritten recipes. "I found this in the library last night. It belonged to my mother. She loved cooking, and she was amazing at it." Olivia flipped through the pages, her fingers brushing over the neat script. Each recipe was annotated with notes like, "Add more garlic" or "Perfect for rainy days." It was clear the book had been cherished. "I was thinking," Keanu continued, "maybe you'd like to try some of these recipes. We could use them for the next dinner party." Olivia blinked in surprise. "You'd want me to cook for your guests?" "Why not?" he said with a grin. "You're talented, Olivia. I've tasted your cooking, and I know the guests will love it too." Though the idea terrified her, Olivia couldn't deny the excitement bubbling within her. "I'd be honored," she said, her voice steady despite the nerves. Over the next week, Olivia threw herself into planning the menu. She spent hours in the villa's professional-grade kitchen, testing recipes from the notebook. The staff watched in awe as she moved with confidence, her love for cooking reignited. Keanu, true to his nature, checked in often, offering encouragement and even helping with taste testing. "This is incredible," he said after sampling her stuffed mushrooms. "You've got a gift, Olivia." On the night of the dinner party, Olivia's nerves were at an all-time high. The villa was filled with Hollywood elites, their laughter and conversations echoing through the halls. Olivia stayed in the kitchen, carefully plating each dish with precision. As she sent out the first course, a delicate butternut squash soup garnished with sage, she held her breath, waiting for feedback. It didn't take long. The sound of laughter and compliments drifted back to the kitchen. One of the servers popped in, a wide grin on her face. "They love it," she said. "Every single person at the table is raving about the food." Relief and pride washed over Olivia. She had done it. Later that evening, as the guests trickled out and the villa quieted down, Keanu sought Olivia out in the kitchen. She was scrubbing pots, her cheeks still flushed from the success of the night. "You were amazing," he said, leaning against the counter. "I heard so many compliments tonight." "Thank you," Olivia said, a shy smile tugging at her lips. "I couldn't have done it without your support." Keanu shook his head. "You did this, Olivia. All I did was give you the chance." He paused, his expression turning thoughtful. "Have you ever considered starting your own catering business? I think you'd be incredible at it." The suggestion took Olivia by surprise. "A catering business? Why not?" Keanu said. "You've got the skills, the passion, and now, the confidence. And if you need help getting started, I'd be happy to invest." Olivia stared at him, overwhelmed by his generosity. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Say you'll think about it," he replied with a smile. That night, as Olivia lay in bed, she couldn't stop thinking about Keanu's suggestion. The idea of starting her own business felt both exhilarating and terrifying. But as she thought about everything she had overcome, the long nights, the uncertainty, the sacrifices, she realized she was stronger than she had ever given herself credit for. For the first time in a long while, Olivia allowed herself to dream. The decision to start her own catering business wasn't one Olivia made lightly. For days, she weighed the risks, the logistics, and the enormity of what it would mean to step into such an endeavor. But every time doubt crept in, she thought of Keanu's unwavering faith in her. His words echoed in her mind, "You've got the skills, the passion, and now, the confidence." One evening, after a particularly successful day of work at the villa, Olivia found Keanu in the library. He was lounging on a plush armchair, reading a book on filmmaking. She hesitated at the door before stepping inside. "Keanu?" she said softly. He looked up, smiling warmly. "Olivia, come in. What's on your mind?" She took a deep breath. "I've been thinking about your suggestion, about starting a catering business. And I've decided to go for it." Keanu's face lit up with pride. "That's amazing. I'm so glad to hear that. But," Olivia added, "I don't know the first thing about running a business. I'll need help, guidance, and probably a lot of luck." Keanu nodded. "You'll have all the help you need. We'll get you in touch with a business advisor, set up a plan, and make sure you have the resources to succeed." Olivia felt a surge of gratitude so overwhelming it brought tears to her eyes. "I don't know how to thank you," she said, her voice trembling. "You don't need to," Keanu replied gently. "Just promise me one thing, when you're in a position to help someone else, pay it forward." True to his word, Keanu connected Olivia with a team of experts who helped her navigate the early stages of her business. She spent weeks brainstorming menus, designing branding, and even testing recipes in the villa's kitchen. The staff, who had become like a second family to her, were eager taste testers and cheerleaders. When the paperwork was finally complete, and her business, Harper's Table, was officially registered, Olivia couldn't contain her excitement. The first big event on her calendar. A private dinner party for Keanu and a few close friends. The evening of the event was a whirlwind of activity. Olivia arrived at the villa early, her team in tow. The kitchen buzzed with energy as they prepared the menu: seared scallops with a citrus glaze, wild mushroom risotto, and a decadent chocolate torte. Olivia oversaw every detail, her confidence shining through in every decision she made. By the time the guests arrived, the dining room was a vision of elegance. Keanu greeted Olivia before the meal, his smile radiating pride. "This is your night," he said. "Enjoy it." As the courses were served, Olivia watched from the kitchen, her heart pounding with anticipation. The sound of laughter and enthusiastic compliments drifted back, filling her with a sense of accomplishment she had never known. After the final course, Keanu stood and raised his glass. "I want to take a moment to acknowledge someone very special," he said, his voice warm and sincere. "Olivia, you've turned your passion into something extraordinary. This dinner, this business, is a testament to your talent and resilience. We're all lucky to be here tonight, enjoying the fruits of your hard work." The guests erupted into applause, and Olivia stepped into the dining room, her cheeks flushed with emotion. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady despite the tears threatening to fall. "None of this would have been possible without your support, Keanu. You believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself." Keanu raised his glass again. "To Olivia, and to dreams that become reality." As the night wound down and the villa emptied of guests, Olivia stood in the kitchen, reflecting on how far she had come. She had started the evening as a caterer, but she was leaving as a business owner, a chef, and a woman who had reclaimed her future. Keanu found her there, a warm smile on his face. "How are you feeling?" "Grateful," Olivia said simply. "For everything." "Well," Keanu replied, leaning against the counter, "this is just the beginning. I can't wait to see where you go from here." In the months that followed, Harper's table flourished. Olivia catered weddings, corporate events, and even a charity gala organized by Keanu. With every meal she prepared, she thought about the journey that had brought her here, the struggles, the kindness of strangers, and the courage to take a leap of faith. As her business grew, Olivia made good on her promise to pay it forward. She hired staff from underprivileged backgrounds, giving others the same chance Keanu had given her. She also set up a scholarship fund in Liam's name to help young chefs pursue their culinary dreams. And though life continued to throw its challenges her way, Olivia faced them with the strength of someone who had learned that no dream was out of reach with hard work, determination, and a little kindness. Years later, Olivia found herself back at the villa, catering another intimate dinner for Keanu and his friends. As they reminisced about the past, Keanu leaned over and said, "You've come a long way, Olivia." She smiled, her heart full. "I had a good mentor."